They say gardening is civil and social, but it wants so bad the freedom and vigor of the forest and all its outlaws. It's funny how 4 or 5 months of work, maybe 8 months of preparation, mental preparation, can all go to waste within a single night. Because animals tend to find a way. Every creak, every crack, every little bit of imperfection within your system gets exploited within a single night or two. Why do I even try? Why do I sit here another year with the same destruction that I suffered last year? Although much more protected, this bed simply isn't enough. I want to continue. I have an ego drive to continue working on this bed to beat the animal that has caused me the most grief. Here in my very own state, once a year, we celebrate the groundhog. Thousands of people go to a very small town about an hour and a half away from here, and they try to figure out if the groundhog is going to show its shadow or not. Now, I'm not too familiar with how the rules of the superstition really works, but as I understand, if the groundhog sees its shadow, then something happens. Nothing like what I'm experiencing here, because every time I see a groundhog shadow, I know that destruction is near. It's poking around, it's prodding, it's looking for any imperfection in my system to exploit. That little small town where the groundhog celebration resides is actually the star of a film entitled Groundhog's Day, where every day a man wakes up and has the same results until he fixes his problem, which is very apt.
1,000 people freezing their butts off waiting to worship a rat.
So, let's fix this problem. Says my ego, but yet I am about to put in 6 works of physical labor for what? Why am I doing this yet again? Why is it yet another year of my systems failing and me not being able to keep up the animals that not only eat my food, but take away the content that I spend many of hours editing, shooting, making sure that it looks good? What is the actual point of this? And it's something that I can't truly explain without journaling. It is a maddening experience because in the back of my head, I know that one night it all happens. One night it all goes away. It was only about 6 or 7 months ago that the structure actually was created. And before that, it was a whole winter mentally designing what I thought would take out any threat of an animal with bird netting, with insect netting, with caging coming from a nice wooden base, and yet it is still not enough. What I do know now is I have to rip up the morning glories that I planted for my great-grandmother. Because although she would have loved the site, she was also a woman of organization. And this wouldn't have worked for her.
I'm reliving the same day over and over.
I, just like 99% of home gardeners, am someone who likes to do things. Someone who likes to tinker around and fill up the space that I am allotted, the space that I am allowed to actually fill. And one of the key components of me buying this house was the backyard, of course, because I knew I wanted this garden. And one of the circumstances of being someone who likes to do things, someone who likes to build, is usually you're someone who enjoys constructing. And that is what I keep that is what I keep finding myself doing. Constructing and reconstructing until I find the perfect home garden protection system. Year after year, we build these narratives in our head of what our garden is going to look like, what our garden is going to mean for us during that upcoming season. Last season, this trellis was everything. It was a structural piece of my garden that was going to be a center of all of my beans and my cucumbers. And yet I am already looking at next year, and I knew that this trellis wouldn't be here because I have a whole hanging system that I am now trying to devise. I am constructing the narrative already of next summer, and we aren't even through winter. It is a sickening disease to start gardening. It truly is. Over the years, I have actually started to believe that gardening is a sickness of hope. It's a sickness of optimism. I, much like many of people, have started gardening right after the pandemic started. It was a time to be home. It was a time to hope for a future. Yet, the sickness doesn't end when the season is over. It just grows more and more till it consumes you, much like the aphids consuming the brassicas in your garden.
Victory Gardens played a big role on the home front during World War II. Now they're back.
See, the plan is to actually dig about 1.5 to 2 feet away from where the bed actually sits right now, and about 1.5 to 2 feet down into the soil. That way, when the groundhog approaches my bed and tries to dig in, when it digs down, it is going to reach some netting that will give it a lot of issues. Now, for as much shit as I like to talk on my past self when I am feeling a bit depressed, old Litho actually had some pretty good ideas. And I'm pretty sure the previous version of you also had pretty good ideas that maybe just didn't go as planned. Mine being this bit of covering that I put down. This is weed cover that certainly hasn't done its job, of course. But now that I am pushing back the garden, to make space for protection, I have this clear, grass-free, 2-3 feet that I am going to use now to actually extend the bed out. So I will have another walking row and another planting row if I want to within this space right here, and I can put my protection, underground kind of behind me. I think giving yourself grace is the most important thing you could do in times of garden struggles, in times of life struggles, because at every point we are hopefully making the best decision that we can at the time. And at the time, 2 years ago, this was my best decision. And today, it's different. Well, it seems my ambition has got the most of me, and the quick thinking tactics of trying to lift as much soil as humanly possible was a little bit too much for my shovel, which then delayed everything until now, where the sun is going down. We are entering a solid 10 hours of darkness, where I will be worrying about my uncovered bed, the birds, the groundhogs, and honestly, my mental health. It's been roughly 3 days since I last been able to get out here, and I can't say that it's been a great 3 days. My YouTube channel has bombed. It is bombing. I am out here shooting something that I don't even believe in, and the groundhog has not stopped at all. This is the true despair of summer, the true despair of a changing season and dealing with everything that comes with that. Although it is September, our nights have been dipping down to 48, 49 degrees. Any hope of the summer plants continuing a long season is done for. We have an obscure amount of anomalies happening this week, and I just rather bury myself right here, deep inside my little trench. But instead, I am going to be putting my Wittengate here, hopefully to not go through this again next season. It is here that I figured I better not speak to the camera for a while. You see, by the time you see this, YouTube has corrected things. But through August and September, a lot of things changed. And those changes actually affected my mental state at a very wrong time. For I am not simply just a YouTube gardener. In the last year, I've published 4 books, the last being a 200-page comic book that I just finished turning into an animation for upcoming film festivals. More than anything, I'm a creator, one who's always planting metaphorical and literal seeds to keep my plate continuously full of work to pay off in the future months. Now, gardening has helped me plan further into the future. It's taught me a lot about timing, both when to nurture something and when to pull it by the roots, because whatever it is just simply isn't working out, and that time can be spent nurturing something else. I believe this bed, and possibly this channel, are in need of both right now. Both need a deconstruction from the roots, only to be nurtured back to health by the hands that originally created it. There are a few things in my life that need to follow that way, and maybe this bed is just a microcosm of all of it. And in the end, I'm left with a structure very similar to the one I had to tear down. A bit tidier around the edges. The ends overlap instead of barely fitting together. A bit wider, a bit deeper to give me more production. And ultimately, that is what gardening is about. Making small adjustments, constantly tending to your soil, tending to your plants, this dramatic life that we have chosen. This is the beauty of it. Tearing down, rebuilding, doing work that no one else will. Is it for you? Who's it for? I can't tell you. I just know that instead of taking a shower, I now need to finish the end of my fermentation video, which I started a couple weeks ago. Hopefully all goes well.